Hello! It's Chris.
It's Ian.
And welcome back to our channel. I always feel kind of weird about videos like this because the title seems kind of grim, but like, I don't always... My intervention.
Oh, that's what the title is.
Yeah, or something like that.
Well, last week it was He Rejected Me, so I didn't know what you had planned this week.
Death of the old me. No, because I always feel kind of weird just like talking about my past.
No, you don't.
in a like grim way, you know.
You don't speak about your stuff in a grim way.
But the yeah. The reason I actually was prompted to do this video was because I was talking to one of my friends in LA here. I was just talking about the things I've been through, and I know I've told my rehab and journey to sobriety story on this channel, but when I was talking about my intervention, I think that was like a really important and crucial part of what was happening when I was getting sober, and the thing that prompted me getting sober, because it's such a big event. Things like that, even though they're really good for you, in a way they like cause trauma. That kind of stuff like is so deep inside of you, and I feel like it's just something that's really important to share, because whether it's an intervention or you need a big change in your life in some type of way, I think these kinds of things are sometimes helpful to hear, because you see where I am now and how I made it through that and how I was in this really terrible point in my life. So
well, take it away.
Whenever you go to AA meetings, like, there's a speaker, and they always are kind of talking about how their experience is not going to be your experience, but how they hope to share and help in some sort of way. And I think what was really helpful for me when I was in these dark times was just to hear that people had made it out on the other side and were doing okay, and they had been through really terrible things too. And I always say, like, I feel like everyone at some point should go to something where there is a speaker talking about getting through their dark times, because when you're in this dark, depressive kind of moments, there's nothing stronger than your feeling of being alone and your loneliness. And I think what is most important is to always hear that you're not, and that there is someone who has gone through what you're going through and likely gone through even worse, and they still made it out on the other side. And that's such an amazing thing to hear from other people, because my story is by far not the worst one out there. So when I hear other people share their strength, it really helps me.
And you're competitive, so you were like, oh, what was your story? Okay, I can beat that.
No. Now that would be problematic.
You mean in that situation?
Yeah.
But not right now. That was called a joke.
Yes. Yeah.
Just showing you how my mind works.
My sophomore year of college, the first time I went through sophomore year, was when my alcohol and addiction and addiction to drugs got really terrible. I moved in with one of my best friends, Harley, and she was already nervous to move in with me because I was kind of known to be a wreck.
Jessica.
Yeah. And my family was already really worried about me. And I even knew I had a problem. I was always saying like, oh yeah, once college is done, I'm gonna go to rehab. Like, I have a problem, but I'm not ready to handle it right now. But the summer before sophomore year actually was when it really went downhill. And I realized I started not being able to go to sleep unless I was under the influence of something. I would get so anxious and like literally feel antsy and like fiend for something, because I was like, I need to get out of myself. I just could not stand feeling my own feelings at that point, and I felt so low about myself, and having drugs and alcohol was such an escape. And every time I would get really drunk, I would cry, because I was like getting I was like getting to the point of just like letting my feelings out, which I could never seem to do when sober. So once school started and my roommate ended up moving in, it just got really bad.
What is bad?
I was drinking every night. Even before classes, I would wake up and go to class hungover or drugs in my system. Like,
Right.
I was becoming non-functional. So as that happened, my roommate got really worried, and my family was already worried about me. They kind of knew what was going on because we went on vacation over the summer, and I was a mess.
Where did you go?
We went to the Philippines. We went to Indonesia, and it was a beautiful trip, and I really look forward to going again at some point, because...
Wait, were you belligerent on the trip with your family?
At some points, yeah.
And no one noticed, or people did notice?
They noticed, and it was a problem. But I hold a lot of like guilt and shame over that, because I kind of like ruined a life-changing trip. To look back on that now isn't another reason I stay sober. That was an amazing trip that I kind of spent in a haze, and my sister got very uncomfortable, my mom was very uncomfortable. It was a very selfish time for me because I was feeling such pain and I didn't know how to communicate it. I went about it completely wrong, and that was something I really had to confront during rehab. And I think that's the really hard part about getting sober is, yes, you get to the other side, but there are so many hard things you have to confront before you get there, but they're so necessary. So my mom and my roommate got really worried about me, my roommate especially, because she was seeing it every day. And I think that's when they started coordinating getting me real help. I had been to rehab once before, but it was just for a month, and it was a very like lovey program, and everything was, we're gonna love you till you get better. And that ended up not helping me because it just kind of enabled me. Nothing really changed. So they ended up talking to my whole family about it and hiring an interventionist. And my sister, my mom, my whole dad's side of the family, my aunt, my uncle, my dad, one of my mom's best friends, and the interventionist all flew to Boston and met at like a cafe. I'm recounting this, by the way, my roommate told me. They met at a cafe the morning that this was going to happen because I had class later and I was hungover, obviously, and did not wake up until like 11 and planned how they were going to do this. I'm sure there was a lot of planning that went before it, but they had these like packets of paper with letters in them. And so my roommate woke me up and was like, Chris, your dad's here. And I was like so disoriented and was just like, what?
Were you under the influence then?
I was definitely hungover. There was still some in my system. And I woke up and I was like, what's going on? But I just like didn't really think about it. I wasn't really clear-headed anyway. And then when I walked/stumbled into the kitchen, my whole family was there. And I wasn't surprised. Like I, for some reason, was like, this makes sense. I knew this was coming in a way, but like, I'm interested to see what is about to happen. And honestly, in those moments, how can you react, you know? There's fight, flight, freeze. And I like froze and was just like, okay, this is happening. And they read these things called impact letters, how your addiction has impacted their life. And so every person went around. It was extremely emotional. I mean, just imagine like all of the closest people in your life literally just telling you like how you impacted their lives in a negative way. You okay?
Yeah. No, I'm fine. I'm good. I'm just listening to you.
I know. It's hard. After everyone goes through and reads their letters, the interventionist says, so we have 2 tickets down to Florida for you to leave today and get help. And obviously that's when I like don't know what to do, and I'm like, I can't leave my friends right now. I have to leave right now. I have to pack up and go. I can't do that. Like I have to finish school, and I have all of these excuses. It's like such an emotional experience that you never really think you're gonna go through. Remember I asked for my 2 best friends who were there like to go in the other room, and I just like broke down and was like, I can't leave. They were like with me but also knew I needed to get help. And so when I came out and said I can't go, the interventionist instructed everyone to turn a page in their packet to basically the letter of, if I said no, this is what you have to read. So everyone started going through their letters, which was basically like, I will no longer exist to them. You know, my aunt started and was like, I can no longer think of you as my family. My mom then said the same thing and said my grandma, Lola, who some of you have seen in content, can't speak to me anymore. And then I just remember my sister breaking down and begging me to say yes so my dad wouldn't read his letter. Because my dad's letter was that I wasn't going to be a part of the family anymore, and that they weren't going to pay for school or the apartment, so I was just going to have to be on the street, basically. Which I before my dad even read the letter, once my sister was breaking down, I understood what the letter was going to be. It was going to be the ultimatum, which just, it gave me no choice. I couldn't not be a part of my family. And I remember just breaking down. And that's like a moment you never forget. Everyone who loves you in their life, loving you so much that they have to tell you they cannot see you go on like this. They know you're better than that, and they cannot continue to enable that behavior. I look back on that now and I'm so unbelievably thankful that they did something like that, because as much as it was hard for me to hear, I cannot imagine how hard it was for them to have to say that to someone they love so much. And I broke down and I had one of the biggest panic attacks I've ever had, and I remember I was just screaming and like ran to my bed, and I was just like curled on my bed screaming, and I remember my dad came in and just like held me and started crying, and like I've seen my dad cry like 3 times in my life. That was just the moment of me like letting that out so I would have to go. And obviously once I got out and my dad and I kind of had that moment, I said like, I'll go. There was no other option. I had no time to say goodbye to any of my friends. I called one of my best friends at the moment, and she came over and I just told her the situation, and I remember we just cried together, which was amazing because I FaceTimed her the other day and told her about what was going on in my life, and she was like, it brought me back to that moment when we were crying right before you left for your intervention, because like I saw that for you. When you were gonna leave, I knew that it was good, and I knew that you were going to come out like in so much of a better way. And she started crying when I was telling her about like what was happening in my life, because she was like, this is what I like wanted for you, and I knew this was always in you, and like you just needed to go through that thing. And it was so crazy to like be crying together before I left for rehab, and then just cry again together, because like life is so great now, which is just like,
And you love crying.
I love crying. I hate my voice when I'm crying, and I'm gonna hate watching this video. Such is life. So then I had to pack and get in a car with this guy, this interventionist, who had to escort me down to Florida in case I ran or something like that, tried to run away.
What was that like, traveling with this stranger?
It was weird. I didn't speak.
You didn't?
For about like 24 hours. My phone also broke the day before, so I had to text my friends on my computer, and then I had to give them all a mailing address because the only way you could speak in rehab was through mail. And I also just want to like say, my roommate thought when I left that day that like our friendship was over, because she took me away from school and sent me to rehab, and like I thank her multiple times a year for changing my life and helping me. And like I think about that all the time, that I'm like, I will continue thanking her for doing one of the hardest things that a friend could ever do. So yeah, I got to like a detox when I first got to Florida, and then went to rehab from there. But this whole story takes place in like less than 12 hours. But that was the most life-changing day of my life.
That's a lot to go through very young.
It's a lot. I was 19. I look back on it frequently, like just shocked. And I really, when I think about it most of the time, I don't actually connect to this emotion, and I don't usually cry when I tell the story, because it's just like, when you retell that story, it's really hard to emotionally live through that all the time. But I think it's still really important to make a video like this. So if someone else maybe has this kind of experience, or has someone else in their life who maybe needs something like this, not even for alcohol or whatever, or if you just wanted to watch a video about me, then I felt like this was important to share.
I've heard that story like a couple times, not a lot, but what hits is like the family chord, is like picturing them all standing there, and so then of course you like put yourself in that situation, and then when you know these humans, and then you're like, my family.
I also just want to say, like, one of my aunts has passed since then, and I got sober like before she ended up passing, and I think that was really important for me too, while she was alive. And she was like a light of the Olsen family, and to be able to know that she was able to see that her efforts with the rest of my family were not in vain was such a beautiful thing.
Was she there?
She was at my intervention, yeah. One, for me, but also for the rest of my family, for everyone who was there. Like, that is why I stay on track.
Thanks for sharing, baby.
Thank you for watching this wild ride of a video. What?
You just end things like so abruptly. I'm there like, well, thank you so much. Like, that was lovely. Can't wait for the next time. Cookies? Like, just kind of always, and he's just like, He will end a call or a meeting with people we FaceTime. Anyone who's done business with us knows this. It's like, okay, so... and it's like, oh, I was going to say, so I'll talk to you tomorrow. Like, no, there's no... It's just like, you just love to end a thing so quickly.
Once I've gone through it, I'm like, okay, I gotta get out. I gotta stop being vulnerable. We love you so much that I wanted to share this life-changing story.
Yeah, this milestone of a moment.
This hard story to share. You're all beautiful. If you are going through something that is hard right now, there is always another side. In the bio, we'll put a link of places you can contact to get help if necessary. There are always better days to come. We'll see you on the next one.
Yes. Always remember,
focus
on
your
blooming. Or if you're Harley, focus on his blooming and intervene.
Hat or no hat? Oh, no hat. What do you think?
I didn't even see it with hat.
No hat. No hat.
Great. Could you turn the light? It's a little Do you have another light? It's a little heavy.
Oh, Sheila. So,
yeah. I think that's important.
Oh, yeah. I just didn't know if you were gonna add anything. I don't know what else.
No.
No?
No.
No?
Is this not something someone could come for you for? Being like, right? No, right? No.
What? Who would come for me for getting sober?
Yeah, you're right. Mm-hmm.
It's okay.
You have to, this is a job, you have to finish.